Welcome to Wise Women's Stories, a podcast where we dive deep into the essence of womanhood, intuition, transformation, and becoming. I'm Edwina Murphy-Droomer, and rather than skimming the surface, we're here to unravel the true essence of womanhood and the layers that shape and define us. We invite you as you enter this sacred space to take a moment of solitude with just your thoughts, a comfortable chair, a warm cup of tea, and your journal.
And I'm Inarra Ariane Griffin. Together we explore the journeys of women who have weathered decades of highs and lows and are now poised to discover deeper mysteries and mastery on their personal development journey. In each episode, we invite you to join us as we work to help you uncover honest insights and share profound stories that empower women to embrace their most authentic, wild, natural selves.
Hello, gorgeous women. Welcome back. And in this episode, we are diving into the sixth task in the story of Vasalisa and initiating the intuition. Tonight's task is separating this from that. So as I like to do, I want to just give you the first snippet from this story. So as a reminder, this is from Clarissa Pinkola Estes' book, Women Who Run with the Wolves, and the story we're doing is Vasalisa. So a woman's psychic tasks are these: learning fine discrimination, separating one thing from the other with fine discernment, learning to make fine distinction in judgment, sorting the mildewed corn from the good corn, and sorting the poppy seeds from a pile of dirt, observing the power of the unconscious and how it works even when the ego is not aware, the pairs of hands which appear in the air. More learning about life, which is the corn, and death, the poppy seeds. So there are lots of lovely bits for us to dive into in this particular task. I think if I look at the first section, she talks here about the sorting spoken of in the tale is the kind which occurs when we face a dilemma or a question, but not much is forthcoming to help us solve it. But leave it alone and come back to it later, and there may be a good answer waiting for us when there was nothing before. Or go to sleep and see what you dream. The answer is either under your bed or in your pocket, in a book or behind your ear. And it is that feeling of like, why can't I find the answer? What is it that I'm wanting to learn? And sometimes it is just that, what's coming to my mind is, when you desperately try to remember a word, or there's something you wanted to tell somebody and it's just like it just disappears. It's like you try so desperately to grab hold of something that it proves elusive. And so when we can tap into that trust and the quiet and the stillness and the ability to just take a breath and walk away, find stillness, and the answers will come. So sometimes it's in dreams. I haven't actually had much luck with that. A little bit. Sometimes I can probably pull out in my 50-something years, maybe 3 or 4 times that I can think of where things have come to me in dreams that have felt like clear messages. For me, it's actually in journaling. If I write and make myself keep writing for like 3 pages, and sometimes it's like, I don't know what I'm writing. I can't think what to write. This is so boring. I wish I didn't. Like there are moments where there's a few lines of that and you just keep going and the answers come for me. What's your method, Inarra?
Well, I think we're really talking here in this moment in the book about masculine and feminine energetics.
Yeah.
So the doing, which is the masculine, the proving and the trying to figure it out, which we often do. Often it's the stopping, the surrendering, the creating space for something. And I've had profound experiences of that. I mean, in terms of dream life, I have a very active dream life. I don't always get specific messages. Sometimes I definitely do, but it's more like something is unraveling while I'm asleep. And there's a whole bunch of activity that goes on. And then I find in the spaciousness, if I give myself space, to not have the answers, to not have it figured out, then the answer drops in. But if I
Mm.
keep trying to do, to prove, to force, it doesn't drop in.
Yeah.
And big moments for me in life, and we've had one recently that I've talked to you about. I don't even remember how fast or how we ended up agreeing to do this podcast,
Yeah.
right? I have no recollection. What I do know is that earlier in the year for
Yeah.
me, I had it felt like the ending of a cycle.
Yeah.
And I honored the endings. I was like, okay, I have no answer to what the next phase is, but I'm
Mm.
just going to open the spaciousness of my
Yeah.
heart and not trying to figure it out, because the tendency, I think, is women are always trying to figure everything out. Like, how do you make the
Mm.
money? Where's the food coming from? Where are the kids? Blah, 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 like this. And in business, it's always, what's my next move? How do I get an audience? And so on and so forth. And when you open space and don't try and force one route, then the route that comes is actually often better than the one that you would have thought and forced, right?
Mm.
And so here we are. And we're
Yeah.
now in what occurs for me as my next phase. You dropped in and here we are doing this. It's like,
Mm.
woo. And it was
Yeah.
so easy because I
Yeah.
didn't try to
Mm.
figure it out.
Mm.
Yeah.
I think it's really interesting to use the word discrimination here, and it's interesting for me because in my talking about, for those that are familiar with human design and gene keys particularly, discrimination is one of my gene keys. And when I saw that, like when I think of discrimination, it's got a very negative connotation to it, because we talk about discrimination, for women and for people of color. And, that's how I think of the word discrimination. But when we think about it in terms of that discernment, the ability to discriminate between what is right for us and what is not, it can take time. And there's a maturity that comes with life experience. My dog just is coming in. If you hear that clickety clack in the background, there's a maturity that comes with time. And it is over time that I've come to understand for myself that I tend to do things like this quite slowly. If there's an answer, for me, I spoke in the last task about my children finishing school, and there's sort of a new identity that's been blossoming for me from that point. And it's been at this point about a 7-month journey of like really looking at, what do I want to do in my business? How do I want to be in my life? What are the friendships that I'm really cultivating and fostering, like with Inarra? And these different changes, and it doesn't just all come at once. It is a blossoming. It is a gentle unfurling of the new identity that we are stepping into. So symbolically, the mildewed corn carries a dual meaning. As a liquor, mildewed corn may be used both as an I had to look this word up because I didn't understand what it meant, and I might not even be able to say it properly. Imbreviate, but it essentially means drunk. But, and as a medication, there is a fungal condition called corn smut, and a rather fuzzy black fungus which is found in the mildewed corn. This being reputed to be hallucinogenic. So it's interesting. She talks here. The old Eleusinian goddess rites in Greece, and using wheat, barley, poppies, or maize. The sorting of the corn that the Yaga bids Vasalisa to do is related to gathering of medicines. The old woman healers. One can still observe this work throughout North, Central, and South America today. We see the woman healers' ancient remedies and treatments also in the poppy seed, which is a soporific and barbiturate, as well as the dirt. This is interesting. The dirt we were talking in the last task has been used since ancient times and is still used today as a poultice and as packs in baths and even for ingestion under certain circumstances. So the fresh corn, mildewed corn, poppy seeds, and dirt are all remnants of an ancient healing apothecary. And I think it's, like I've got such a passion for herbal medicines and tinctures, and the way that we use what Mother Nature provides to support life and life force. Yeah, I think it's interesting to keep thinking about this in terms of not only the physical, but of the psyche and the soul and the internal environment as well. Yeah, I'm interested. What's coming up for you, Inarra, as I'm talking about this?
Oh, so much.
Yeah, yeah,
So much. Um, Ceremony and ritual and ancient medicina. And I know she's referring specifically to plant medicine,
mm,
rites that
yeah,
Baba Yaga or wild women have
mm,
often been the holders of. They hold the medicine women's circles.
mm,
And it's an interesting piece with the this or the that as well, because in my experience, having done ayahuasca many times actually at this
mm,
point, and and I feel the calling when I feel the calling. It's not like it is so a life-changing experience, and they're very, very clear. This is not drugs. This is nothing to do with that. This is medicina. They're
mm,
really like that with it. So don't talk about it like it's in any way, causing a inebriation or
yeah,
anything like that. No, this is discernment. And when you go in, you will see the answers to things which weave many lives together of why you're here. And when I have done ceremonies like that, I've come out with distinct answers. I'll give
mm,
you a really silly example of one. I was having trouble getting a mortgage. And what was happening was all the conditions have changed in the market. There was a time when I ran my property, little mini empire, and I had 12 mortgages at the same time, no problem. Same person, same lineage, same everything. And I go to renew my mortgage. My mortgage is now on this flat. And I'm told, no, that mortgage company isn't going to renew. They're not going to do it. And
mm,
it's due to age and due to variations of factors. And it was happening during COVID. Well, at the beginning of that journey, I thought, it's going to be no problem. I've always got a mortgage. Come on. But a year into it, I was on my knees. I'd been rejected by 7 mortgage companies. I had a mortgage broker working on it, and I was so worn out, stressed out, because you continuously being checked. Everything has to be in place all the time.
yeah,
And I found myself shrinking like into this little, like real fearful space. And my best friend's daughter, who I call my spirit daughter, I was there at her birth and everything. We're really good friends. She took the shamanic path, as did I. And I'm her like auntie in shamanism. And she said, I want you to come to this ayahuasca circle. And I went, oh, come on. Like I'm in the middle of mortgage nightmare.
mm,
What am I going to get out of it? And she said, no, no, trust me. I think you need to come. And you sing all night and all this kind of thing. So I went. And a quarter of the experience through, I all the fear left me. All
mm,
the fear completely and utterly left my body. It was nothing to do with the mortgage. That's a great symbol for fear, right? Of the version I
mm,
was dealing
mm,
with.
mm.
But I came out of that ceremony. I was like, right, here we go. I'm going to get that mortgage. And
Yeah.
I felt like a different person, like
Mm,
reset, back on order, knew what was going on. And 3 days later, a friend of mine called me and said, I have a connection to a different mortgage advisor who I want you to speak to. And
yeah.
within 6 months, I got the mortgage. But I had no doubt after that. There was just, it's a this, it's
Mm,
not a that. The that was the fear going out. It's like, no, warrior stance coming through. And it was unbelievable that a ceremony could do that. But that's plant medicine,
yeah. Yeah. And
referring to it.
I think it is that ability to be taken so far out of our normal that something different comes through. I'm fascinated by it. It's something that I've had several friends do that, and listening to their experiences of it. It's yeah, it's a it holds a great appeal and intrigue for me. Yeah. Anyway, one day it's on the list. One day.
Nope. Nope. Okie dokie.
um, okay, so the separating this from that. Um, what was the other bit that I really wanted to bring forward for this conversation? All these elements and tasks are teaching Vasalisa about the life, death, life, nature, the give and take of caring for the wild nature. Sometimes, in order to bring a woman closer to this nature, I ask her to keep a garden. Let this be a psychic one, or one with mud, dirt, green, and all the things that surround and help and assail. Let it represent the wild psyche. The garden is a concrete connection to life and death. And I think, when at times as a country woman through and through, that's when I'm really at my happiest, is when I'm completely and utterly surrounded by nature, plants, animals, my feral children. It really is when I feel like I've got that soul knowing that I'm in the right place, doing the right things, connected to the things that really matter. And I think it's an interesting point perhaps that we can raise, before we decided to record this particular task. We were talking about the Barbie movie, and when I, our absolute horror, both of us had this experience of Inarra walked out after 10 minutes, and I did sit through the whole thing, but it was like a soul wounding for me to watch it. And the whole thing felt so incredibly offensive to women from my perspective. It was offensive to men and offensive to women, and it was so artificial. And I know the responses that people are going to give to that, but the disconnection from anything that felt like an authentic message, a message for humanity, I couldn't see it.
No, me neither. And
No.
what we've united in is we loathe Barbie, the movie. And
Yeah.
I hope that's controversial because there are people that I know who have
Mm,
even said, oh, no, no, it's like a new feminist anthology. And it's like, oh, you got to see it from this perspective. And I'm like, no,
mm,
um, I live feminism.
mm,
You know, I live it. I'm here believing that women should be equal. And I've noticed that a lot of younger women now are fighting against the word feminism. And I always
mm,
say this to them: there isn't a word for non-racism. So let's use the word, I'm a non-racist. But would you really want to challenge that? You'd really want to say, hey, no, I'm not taking on that anymore. It's outdated or whatever. It's
yeah.
like, no, we want to keep some of these terms because that is a simple way to say that we believe all people of
Mm,
all colors have equality. And so
yeah.
feminism is the same. It's
Yeah.
saying we believe that women should have equality. And it's an
Yeah.
inadequate word for something that is huge. And there is
Mm,
so much inequality on this
mm,
planet. But when
mm,
I see the Barbie is supposed to reinstate the equality, I mean, it's an absurdity. It's such
mm,
a tacky
yeah.
plastic version. There's no wild hag in it.
Yeah.
There's no wild knowledge in there. It's just, oh, you get to be plastic too.
Mm,
And Barbie gets to drive the car and Ken gets to stay in the back. I mean, it's like, oh my God.
yeah.
So,
Yeah.
didn't
Yeah.
go far enough for me. And just to say, I absolutely love Helen Mirren, who did a voiceover, and
Mm,
I love Ryan Gosling. So it's not about who was in it. It's just the story was just like, oh my God, please.
yeah.
I'd like to see Barbie like getting off the high heel fake foot
Yeah.
thing that she's standing
Mm,
on, going to a medicine circle,
mm,
stop wearing makeup, like allow herself to go wild. That would be of
mm,
interest.
yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. And I think your conversation about feminism, the way that I think about it is, I think that there's so much of it that's been bastardized. It's a little bit like Christianity, and I don't particularly subscribe to any religion, but it's that, I think it was the Dalai Lama that said I'd be Christian if it wasn't for Christians. It's like the way that we take these phenomenal scriptures and messages that have such a wholesome, humane way of looking at life and people, and turn it into a rule book for how to make people feel bad about themselves, and
Yeah.
like it's just it.
Yeah.
And feminism's the same. It's like we've taken something that at its core is so important and so good, and turned it into a women are better than men and men are useless and we don't need them. And anyway, I'll stop.
Well, that's episode 11 when we
Yeah,
get to the
yeah.
real juice.
That's our task number something something, I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway, so where is going to be a good place to finish up this task? The garden is a meditation practice, that of seeing when it is time for something to die, like Barbie. In the garden, one can see the time coming for both fruition and for dying back. In the garden, one is moving with rather than against the inhalations and exhalations of greater wild nature. We have the ability to infuse energy and strengthen life and stand out of the way of what dies. I think that's a great place to end this, sorting this from that, the discernment. It's what is true for you without the interruption of other people's voices or opinions. What is right for you? What is true for you? And this is discrimination and discernment. So, yeah. All right,
Just
beautiful
choose.
souls. Yeah, that's right.
Just choose.
All right, beautiful souls. That is it from us for this 6th task in the initiation of intuition. So much love, and bye for now.
And bye from me.